One of the things I love about my sketchbook is that it is a lab. It is a place where I can experiment and do all kinds of interesting things. I can pick totally different kinds of subject matter, but also I can use materials of all kinds and combine them in new and different ways. I'm always learning, I'm always playing. And that's why I wanted to talk to Joan Martin. Joan is a South African artist who also teaches in the Spark program at Sketchbook Skool. In fact, her class is called Joan's Art Lab. And we're going to talk to her about that. But what's great about Joan is she does beautiful portraits of people, of animals, of cats, of birds, but she also does it in such fascinating ways, combining materials that you wouldn't think would go together, or adding in things like alcohol or turpentine or uh, wood chips or scraps of grass, or even making her paper rust. She just does fascinating things that transform these everyday art supplies into new and different things. And that's what she teaches in her program. So let's learn more about it. Here's Joan. Hi, Joan. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Danny.
All right, good. It's nice to see you. And I'm interested to talk to you about experimentation and about all the different things that you do, because you teach a really great class in Spark that's called Joan's Art Lab. And it's really about, well, tell us, what is it about? What is your class about?
So it is about experimentation with different media. Yeah, so it does vary from very ordinary materials used in different ways to stuff that you wouldn't normally use in an artwork. So we do use things like bleach, alcohol, yeah, turpentine, and we mix it up with more conventional art materials and just try and break people's preconceptions about the way they think about art materials.
So tell me about your art that you make, because I know you do so many different kinds of things, different subjects, different approaches. It seems like you're always reinventing your approach to art.
So I think a lot of my work comes from being inspired by the people that I teach. So I often observe students' work and I think, oh, I really want to do that and I want to try that. I just get inspired by what other people are doing. And then I have this urge to try it myself. And in fact, I feel like I'm quite fractured, in that I don't really focus on one medium. But in terms of teaching, I think it's quite a positive thing for me because I have that facility to expose my students to a lot of different media and yeah and basically help them through the issues that they have with media.
Yeah, I think that's a problem that a lot of people come to me with is I'm all over the place. I'm like a kid in a candy store when it comes to going to buy art supplies. I'm always buying stuff and trying this and jumping to that, jumping to that. Is that a problem? And I always say, I don't know, it's only a problem if you think it's a problem. I think that if you're making stuff, you're creating, you're playing, you're exploring, you're having an adventure, having a good time, that's perfectly fine. You can also focus on a certain thing and get really, really good at it. And that might be the path that you take too. Or you could also experiment wildly, fall in love with something, go deep on it, come out the other side and go back to experimenting. Because I'm a dilettante as well. Yeah. Is that how you see it?
What has always helped me focus is being with other artists and being in that community tends to focus me. And I find that if I get involved in a challenge, like something like Inktober, where we just do ink for a month or watercolor for a focus month, that tends to ground me a little bit. I mean, now I'm coming up with my own challenges and in the hope of trying to channel what I do. The other thing I do is I try and separate my life out into like little sections. So I know that I've got to prepare for a spark lesson. So that's my experimentation. And then every Friday I go and I visit a friend and we both focus on oil painting. So by compartmentalizing my life like that, I tend to focus a little bit more.
Can can you tell us a bit about the the subjects that you cover most, and also then what materials you're experimenting with.
I've started focusing on portraits, so I have a large array of portraits in all different media. So they range from ink to wash to pencil to charcoal. Yeah, I mean, you name it. I think I've done a portrait in whatever you can think of. And then I tend to shift from portraits to birds. I obviously just have a fascination with them. And yeah, maybe it's the cat in me. So I think I absolutely love cats. And maybe because cats love birds, I tend to have that weird fascination. Yeah, and then that's the other subject that I tend to paint is lots of portraits of cats. I've owned a large array of cats. I've had from Siamese to Burmese, and then recently Devon Rexes, and I've had an obsession with Sphinx cats. Yeah, it's a very unusual looking cat, but makes an amazing subject for artwork.
What is your attitude towards experimentation? I think a lot of times when we experiment, we may be disappointed with the outcome, or we may just think, oh, this is a mess. How can we go into it with a sort of a growth mindset? And also, how can we learn from our experiments so that we can kind of build on them or reproduce the results or so forth, so that it isn't just a mess, I don't know what to do with it?
If you don't allow yourself to play and experiment, you actually aren't going to grow as an artist. And I mean, you can approach art and do it in a very methodical and predictable way, but I just find that takes out a lot of the joy of making art. I mean, I just think it's wonderful to and smear and just just have fun as you are making art. Hopefully they'll start to find out things about themselves, but also it will push their approach to art, and they'll be less conservative in their art making.
We can tend to cling to the things that we've done that work, right? So we go, okay, I know how to do this, and so I've worked hard to get to this point. And when you ask somebody to experiment, really what you're saying is, let's start at the bottom again, and you're going to work your way up, through some new technique. And I think sometimes people are afraid of that, becoming beginners again. I really like it, though. I mean, I challenge myself to sort of learn a completely new tool or draw a completely new kind of subject or approach it from a different way. Because in a way, I feel like I have permission to screw up if I'm a novice again, right? So I can say, well, I just picked this up, and it's an opportunity to start all over again and have new kind of adventures because of it, as opposed to just flatlining really with the same old. And that's what your class is really about, is shaking things up. And I feel sometimes in your class, like, you come into it not knowing quite what's going to happen either. You're not positioning yourself as like, I'm the authority, this is exactly how you do it, follow me step by step. But you're saying, like, let's see what happens if we set it on fire or something. And that's I think a really cool kind of example to set too.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, many of the classes that I teach, I might have actually practiced the technique once or twice, and there's always the danger of it falling flat. And in fact, it's quite interesting that sometimes the students that are in my class end up producing better work than what I'm producing. And I mean, that's just wonderful to see people really latch onto something and then fly with it and have their own spin on it. So yeah, that's wonderful. And I mean, I do think that that's what teaching is about. I mean, I think it is about exposing people to their potential. Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of the experimentation does. I mean, the other thing that's quite interesting is a lot of my teaching is about problem solving, creative problem solving. And I think that when you challenge yourself and you do make a mess of your work, you almost have to find solutions to resolve that piece. And I think that is very empowering. It's very empowering for an artist to look at something, not like it, but then push through that barrier and resolve it until they come to some resolution of that artwork.
So tell me about your experience teaching in Spark and how you're engaging with students there. Obviously, you're used to teaching young people in school, and now you're teaching mature people who maybe are coming back to art after they haven't done it for a long time, or starting it for the very first time, or maybe have done it for a while but are now looking to shake things up. What's your experience been with working with them and engaging with the work that they're doing? How's that been for you?
So in the beginning, I think I was absolutely terrified because I'm so used to working with teenagers. And yeah, but I found the community really forgiving of some of the crazy things I said. But yeah, it's been wonderful teaching. I think that people are just very eager to learn. And I mean, like I said, it's sometimes amazing to see what students produce as a result of the lessons. And yeah, and the creativity that's on display. I mean, I've watched students in Spark take my lesson and then take another instructor's lesson and combine the two and then come up with something completely different. That is just wonderful when they're starting to make these creative connections between everything that goes on in Spark. I have really enjoyed teaching. No one's saying anything horrible about anyone's work. It's always constructive criticism. Yeah, there's just a lot of encouragement that goes on in Spark, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah, absolutely. We all need encouragement and support, particularly because people come to it sometimes having had difficult experiences younger. That's why they gave up. So we're all looking to be supported. And you are a very honest teacher. That's one of the things I love about you is that you admit what you think are your shortcomings, although I don't think they are. And you are open. And I think that also sets people at ease, because it's possible to look at your work and think, oh my gosh, she's so good at this, but you're always, very humble in the way that you approach people and very open and honest. So that means a lot as a teacher. So you're not just a kind of authority figure. So I want to thank you again for doing this chat with me today, and more importantly, for being part of Spark and for helping so many artists get to new places with their art and to experiment, to loosen up, to have adventures. It's been so great to have you in the Spark faculty. Thanks so much for doing it.
It's a pleasure, Danny.
Great. Excellent. Joan is such an interesting artist, and her work is so beautiful, and she really pushes herself and all of her students in new and different directions, to take risks and to be willing to make mistakes and to find themselves in completely unfamiliar places with their art. And that is so much fun. That's really what we need to do as artists, as she said. If you'd like to join Joan in her art lab, or if you'd like to participate in any of the incredible classes we have in drawing and watercolor and lettering and gouache and mixed media and urban sketching and portraiture, sign up for a 2-week free trial at sketchbookskool.com/spark. You can try it out, see if it's for you, and find out where you could take your art. I think you'll find it exciting and stimulating. Joan and I look forward to seeing you there. Sign up today.